So the big question is, what is the difference between a bitmap and a vector image? And the question you're asking is, why does that even matter when it comes to education content development? Let me explain what they are first, and then I'll explain why it matters. First of all, I'm going to take you to Adobe Illustrator. And I have two circles, the same size. One is blue, one is green, and they should be pretty much exactly the same. But there is a massive difference, a very big difference between the two. The first thing is, the two circles, when I zoom in on them, you'll notice the left-hand circle has a blurred edge and the right-hand circle has a beautiful crisp edge. I'll move in even further and you can now see that the blue circle is made up of lots of little squares and they're called bitmaps. This is how a PNG or a JPEG file is created, and each little square is colored a different color, and that's how they create the image, and that's how photos are created. So your photos are made up of tiny little squares that are all made up of different colors, and they create your photo. Notice on the right, even though I've zoomed in this far, the right hand circle still has a clean, crisp edge. This is called a vector image, and a vector image is created completely different to how a bitmap, or JPEG or PNG image is created. So how is a vector image created? A vector image, for example, in Adobe Illustrator, can be created by using the pen tool. To create a vector, I choose one point, I choose another point, and if I just choose even just a third point, it then joins those 3 points. So the lines will join all 3 points and then fill it with color. The only information needed, instead of lots of little dots and all the colors that fill them, the only information that you need for a vector is the points where it's going to. So these are called anchors. And then the line between them, what type of line that is, and then the fill color, or how that object is actually going to be filled. Now, obviously, if you're using vector images, they often can't be as complex as a photo is going to be. But there are a lot of things in the educational context where using a bitmap image provides one solution, but using a vector image may provide an even better solution, because we can convert vector images into a format called SVG, which is like HTML. And we can add that to a page, and I'll show you the next big difference between bitmaps and vectors and why they could be valuable to you in your content. A vector image can be exported as an SVG file. So here I have my blue circle as a JPEG. I have the green circle as an SVG file. If I now look at the size of each of those files, the blue bitmap, which is made up of lots of little squares or little dots, and those dots are then colored, is 26 KB or 26 kilobytes. For our green circle, which is an SVG file, the size of it is 151 bytes. So that means the information used to generate a circle that is 300 by 300 as an SVG is 150 bytes, which is a very, very small fraction of the size it takes to create a bitmap, 300 by 300, which is 26 kilobytes. So there is a very big difference in the file sizes that each of those image types have. If we now go to our code and look at the SVG circle in HTML, so this could be in our educational content or in a website, we have our SVG code that creates our green circle, and we also have our image that allows us to add the source for the blue circle at 300 by 300 pixels. If we have both of those added to a web page and we view them on a mobile device, it looks like this. Here is our mobile device view of the circle, green as a vector, blue as a bitmap, and they look quite okay at that resolution. But let's say I need to view this on a full website, and that website might be this size that it's being viewed. Have a look at the blurriness. Yes. Look at how blurry the edge of the blue is and how crisp the edge of the green is. If I was to go to an even larger size, you can see how it repeats the same process and the same issue we had before about graphics that are bitmaps and graphics that are vector images. Now your very next question will be, but these are just circles. How is that going to look if I have a real actual image that I need to put into a website, what's that going to look like? Looking at something slightly more complex, this is a vector image, the 6 levels of cognitive learning as a vector, and the bottom one is the 6 levels of cognitive learning as a PNG file. If we view that on a normal computer screen, it looks okay as on a mobile device. If we now view it extra large on a website, you can see we have the 6 levels of cognitive learning. And if we now go to our PNG file, you'll notice that it started to blur the writing. And it's not looking too good at all, becoming quite blurry. So that's the difference between the PNG or JPEG or bitmap compared to a vector image. A couple of extra advantages of SVG images or vector images is that if you're adding text using SVG, it also allows you to change the text without having to go back and change the original graphic, and you can do that in your HTML. You can also change your colors in your HTML rather than go back to the original graphic. So using a vector or SVG image in your HTML and in your content, you can match your colors to the colors of your course content or your website. You can change the fonts, and you can change the text that's inside those graphics or inside those SVG objects without having to go back and re-export your original graphic as a PNG or as any other graphic format that you want to use. So these are some of the uses and reasons why it's worth considering and looking at SVG in comparison to bitmap, PNG or JPEG files for certain images or certain graphics that you will use in your educational content. I hope that's been useful, and feel free to ask some questions. Let me know what you think. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll talk to you very soon in the next video.